Hello and thanks for joining us. This is the Signature Show, and I'm VinMartin Obiora Ilo. Today, my guest is Senator Abaribe, Chairman Senate Committee on Power. Senator Abaribe, glad to have you.
Thank you, Vin.
A lot has been happening between the Senate and the Executive. And I know that you've been an advocate of a conducive atmosphere for a healthy relationship between the Executive and the Legislature. What do you think is reason for the constant rift we see in that relationship, especially in Nigeria?
Well, I think if you go historically, there has always been a rift. What has happened that has made this particular one to look as if it has been intractable is the fact that the leadership of the executive at this time could not manage the relationships with the other arm of government, the legislature, with the required finesse and the required depth of understanding of what the legislature stands for. Under Obasanjo, there was frosty relationships too, which led to constant changing of Senate presidents, if you can recall. But in between, this also managed at times to really work together. Under both Yaradua and Jonathan, I would say that it was just the Yaradua short period that he actually gave the legislature their independence, didn't want to interfere, didn't want to bother, and simply expected a reciprocal relationship, and that happened. And under Jonathan, we also saw some testy times, but at all times, there was a much more maturity in handling I would say, relationships. What has happened with this particular administration is that at the inception of the administration, the person who emerged as the principal officer of the Senate was not the person that the administration wanted. And that made the administration to make moves, serious moves, to bend, let's say, the will of the legislature to themselves. And that led to this seeming frosty relationship. The system that we run, the presidential system with independent arms of both the legislature and the judiciary, presupposes that there will be an adversarial relationship, but that when it comes to national matters, that we would be able to come and find the synergy. But what we saw was a sustained assault on the legislature, and of course, when you're assaulting the head of the legislature, what you're doing is you're assaulting the whole institution. And we also saw the head of the legislature bending over backward to accommodate the executive. But I think that what happened was that some people misinterpreted the bending over backward to accommodate the executive as weakness, and therefore continued pressing to have their way. Because there was this whole thing that I will, for want of a better word, call a Kabiesi syndrome in politics, in which one man says, this is what I want, and if it doesn't happen, then all hell will break loose. So that is, in a nutshell, why we are here. So a lot of us counseled at the beginning, and they cautioned that this was going to be a journey that was going to impact negatively on the economy, impact negatively on the polity, and will not be able to lead us to where we want to go. And what do we want to do? Where do we want to go? Welfare for all Nigerians, safety of life and property, and increasing investments in Nigeria, improved employment, and economic expansion. That's exactly what everybody who really loves this country wants. But then when all these issues were now being brought in necessarily, it meant that we never would see what we want to see.
You talked about the legislature bending over to accommodate the executive. But that's not what a lot of Nigerians feel. They don't feel that the legislature has tried to bend over. They think that the legislature has arm-twisted the executive, especially when it concerns the government's anti-corruption agenda. Is this something you subscribe to?
No. What you're getting is the narrative of the executive when they are not being able to get the public to buy into their disingenuous way of explaining their failure. And so the disingenuous way of explaining the failure is to blame it on the legislature. Because let's just ask the next question. In what way would the legislator hamper the fight against corruption?
When the legislature does not, for instance, approve the appointee of the president for the position of chairman of EFCC, for instance.
Yes, okay, which is why I say that it's a very disingenuous way of explaining things. And it's so clear and so simple that every Nigerian should understand that the job of the legislature is to screen and approve. How do you do that? You ask the agencies of government, the police, the DSS, the ICPC and CCT to give you as a result of their own investigations of each person. They will bring the reports and you consider the report. Twice. The very first time, the DSS, which is the equivalent for Nigeria of the Secret Service, the FBI like you have in here, did an investigation and sent a report to the legislature and said that the head that was being proposed by the president is not fit. And wrote it in black and white, signed it. And the legislature went ahead, despite that, because on the face of such a damning report, you're supposed to close this and still went ahead to say, no, even though we have this report, let us still invite the head, the proposed head, to come and answer questions from the legislature in full view of Nigerians. And of course, the verdict of Nigerians was very, very clear, which is also the same verdict. The head of the anti-corruption agency did not really shine like roses that day. We saw it. Everybody saw it. And we went back. We didn't disqualify him. We still said to the executive, in view of all this, take another look at what you proposed to us. And it was returned. Ordinarily, what we ought to have done is to write and say, we have not found him worthy, because that is our own prerogative. But we returned it to the president and asked the president. And the president wrote to us and said, oh, he has done his own investigation and that there was nothing wrong, and so he's representing him. And then the same DSS, from the same executive, from the same, under the same presidency, wrote back to us and said, we stand by our report that he is not qualified. Under that circumstance, what do you expect the legislature to do? Agency of government that is supposed to give you proper information on each person in this country with regard to his suitability, says is not suitable. And we turned around and say, fine, if you stand by that, then we cannot go ahead and approve him. And the executive turns around and now says to us that we are the people responsible. I mean, you can see the narrative now. Does that make, and that's why I say that it is the narrative of the executive that gives that impression. It is the executive itself that goes around undermining itself and trying to get another arm of government to take the blame for it. We just refuse to take the blame. So when I say that we bend over backwards, is that instead of saying on the basis of this letter that we received that this person is not fit and proper, we won't even screen him, won't do anything, we reject him. We didn't do that. Every effort was made. And this was exactly the same effort that was made when ministers were screened. The Senate president, as head of the legislature, appealed to us to let this government move. And you know why? The government has spent 6 months without any head of the executive agencies, 6 months without minister, this and that, and the economy was tanking. Everything was going wrong. And we said, no, let's just do this thing quickly so that they can get to work. And so we also bent over backwards. And for the first time, for the very first time, returned to the president 100% of all the people he sent for approval. Never happened. Usually there must be some flaws in 1 or 2 or 3 people that may have not been caught in terms of this thing, and we'll reject that person. And the other minister, the other presidents prior to this time never blamed the legislator for the rejection of any minister that was sent to him and all that. But this is the only administration that we see that is very quick to outsource blame.
How do you react to suggestions that, besides what you've told me, that the tension is also escalating because of prosecutions of members of the National Assembly in corruption-related issues? That has also made the legislature a little hostile.
So let's put it also this way. When the Senate president claimed, seriously claimed, that his trial at CCT, dragging him there, putting him in the box, doing all those things, as number 3 citizen, that this was politically motivated. The hue and cry from everybody, including the narrative of the executive, was, anybody who is guilty should face the music and all that. But we thank God that today, the Supreme Court, the ultimate arbiter of the land, has come out and given the Senate president a clean bill of health on those charges. In other words, affirming what he had said from the beginning, that this was just spurious and nothing but politics. So you could see that where the blame would lie. In the executive that was pushing that narrative and pushing that whole slander, pushing everything with a false narrative of fighting corruption. If the Supreme Court hadn't said that, maybe today, if we were having this interview, you will not believe me. You will still say, oh, no, it's not true, this and that. You know, So that is where we are. So what we see today, like I said, is an administration that does not believe that anybody can do anything outside of its own, you know, decision or whatever, you know, blank or whatever. So where we are today is where we would say we ought to have passed this stage after close to 18 years of democracy. We ought to have, we shouldn't be here. We ought to have been beyond here today. Why do I say so? We have gone through all this before. But it seems like this administration came and decided that they should pull the hands of the clock back.
Let's talk about the one that concerns you. For a couple of days, you were detained by the court because of your exposure to the Nnamdi Kanu saga. You were one of those that took him on bail. And you know the responsibilities of someone who stands surety for anybody. What actually happened in that case? How come that the man you took on bail, you don't know his whereabouts?
I wasn't detained by the courts. In fact, at the last hearing of the Nnamdi Kanu matter, the judge said specifically, I have no hand in this. I didn't order his detention.
So who ordered?
So who ordered the detention?
Yes, I'm asking you. Or nobody told you?
No, nobody told me. All I know is that I was detained by the DSS, and when we asked for reasons, no reason was given to me. Only when they came to search my house was there a
search warrant.
A search warrant that now said that I am being suspected of being a sponsor of a proscribed organization, IPOB. So the nexus is that being a sponsor of a proscribed organization. And so I now, coming in later to the office of the DSS after the search, and nothing was found. And I asked, and so what is, and then till today, no formal charges, nothing. I was just released on administrative bail for something that there is no formal charge against me. But I know, and I can speculate, and my speculation is nothing but some dirty politics being played. People who are seen as vocal, people who are seen as being able to state clearly to Nigerians that this government is not in their interest, being told to shut up. That's all. And I'm still on bail. And the reason why I'm still on bail is so that somebody will say he has a sword of Damocles hanging over my head. But for some of us who really are sent here to represent our people. We're not going to be deterred by such tactics. Because what it does is actually to demarket the administration. The administration is not gaining any kudos for it. So, because what they do is they look around and start looking for what they will use to hold you. If you have done contracts before, if you have done anything before, they turn around and say, come and answer questions. If you have been part of the political process in some way, as those who got funding for elections, they will say, come and explain how you got this money to do the last elections.
So they are fishing.
They just go around fishing. Unfortunately, I was a small fry. So I wasn't part of those who collected money to give to others for election. I don't do contracts, I don't do all those things. So which other way can you now hold me? Then they remembered, oh, he signed bail for Nnamdi Kanu, and therefore, since that place is, that group is a proscribed group, if we tag him with that, we will be able to find something. And of course, they have not found anything.
Senator Abaribe, and I want you to tell me sincerely, because a lot of Nigerians are really hungry to know the truth. Tell me sincerely, you don't know the whereabouts of Nnamdi Kanu?
I don't.
Sincerely?
Sincerely.
How is that possible?
As God is my witness, I don't.
How is that possible?
Because just a minute, I will tell you. So it's very, very simple. Yeah. I spoke to Nnamdi Kanu on the, I think about the 23rd of August last year. I actually invited him to come to me so that we can have a discussion about the concerns that the Southeast Caucus of the National Assembly had with certain things that were going on around him. After that interaction with him, the next time he was to now appear in court was supposed to be on the 17th of September. He assured me during that interaction, because we were having concerns because of his bail and all that. And he assured me that he will be in court on the 17th. Then, on the 14th of September, the Nigerian army did something they called Operation Python Dance 2. Supposed to have been for the whole of the Southeast, supposed to have started from Enugu and all that, ended up invading his house, where he was there, and where people saw that he was at home, and they invaded that place. Since that day, he has been disappeared. I have not spoken to him. I don't know his whereabouts. I have asked his lawyer, who also says that they are suing the Nigerian army to produce him. So, since he didn't now come to court for reasons of the invasion, okay? Subsequently, we were now asked to come by the government to talk about him. And the case is on in front of Justice Nyako, the Federal High Court 3 in Abuja here. And the case just started. The reason being that We waited for them to serve us a summons, and so you know exactly what it is that you're going to respond to. And we have done so. And the case has been adjourned for the second time to November, when the court will have come back from
their recess.
And we're very ready to, because it's a novel area in the jurisprudence of Nigeria. It's going to be very interesting. In jurisprudence of Nigeria, what is very, very, what is common is that somebody is taken on bail, the person runs away, and all that. But this is the same government. The Nigerian Army is government. The Ministry of Justice that are suing him is also government. And so, if an arm of government interferes in the issues that a government is prosecuting, we want to really know how the jurisprudence will ultimately be resolved. You understand? Because for us, we don't know. Absolutely no idea where he is. We don't know whether he's alive. We don't know whether he's dead. We don't know whether he's in detention by the military. We don't know. And so the only contact I have is when we go to court and meet the lawyer representing him, who said that they have already sued the federal government
over the whereabouts of...
Precisely. And so we'll see how this whole thing will...
What we see today in Nigeria in the last 1 week or thereabout is cross-carpeting. And it's so huge with the legislature, This is the first time, almost the first time in Nigerian history that we've seen this quantum of cross-carpeting. Is this good for our democracy? Is it good for the development of our country? Because I'm asking this question because of the impact situations like this have on the Nigerian state, on the Nigerian economy, on Nigerian business. For instance, the Senate is on recess. They're not coming back until September. A couple of things on their plate were shoved aside. They don't want to talk about it. Does it not impact negatively on us, on our development?
I think you should not try to mix two things. The movement, that's a different thing. What is on our plate as a legislator, that's a different thing altogether. Once you're a senator, you're a senator. Whether you are in one side or the other side, that does not stop you from carrying out your legislative duties. That's why I say that the two of them should not. The movements are not what is the problem. Actually, I don't see it, what people say. What people say, they call it defection, all that. No, what I'm saying today is a homecoming. It's a homecoming by those who left thinking that they could build a better place somewhere, only to find that that place is even worse than where they left. And they decided that it's better to return home. That's all. So and I don't see it as anything that is, in fact, it's very good. I can quote the presidency that said that the president recognizes the right of all Nigerians to hold their own political positions. You understand? And there is another very critical thing that has happened. And that, I think, is what should worry the presidency. Why were Nigerians jubilating? Nobody has asked that question.
Jubilating over what?
Over the movement, over the return. Why were people so happy?
Were people so happy?
Yes. I got so many congratulatory messages. I talked to people who were not even politicians. I talked to people who didn't even, you know why? There was a feeling that had been created of an invincible entity in which nobody could challenge. And that feeling was suddenly demystified. The chairman, a new chairman of the faction of APC, you know, there are two factions. The new chairman came, met with all the senators of the APC bloc. Of course, after talking to them and giving them all the sweet things and saying every good thing, the assumption was that once we have come to talk to them and told them how we have federal might, they will not move. What happened? They went to the House of Rep. What happened? They called some key people. You understand? Including Kwankwaso, Goje, all those people. Had one-on-one with them. People that they said didn't matter before. Why would the president meet with Kwankwaso when his own governor had said he will not be able to win his word? If a man is not able to win his word, do you have to waste time talking to him? But the president spoke with him. Yet, he still said no. That should worry them that the game is over. And Nigerians celebrated it. You know why they celebrated it? Because Nigerians had been suffocated and it was looking like there was this pharaoh that nobody could harm. And now people have said, like Igbos, Anya Lawala, we're leaving. We can't stay.
But you know,
it's very interesting, very, very interesting.
This whole thing, you know. Is it not important that you and I and the rest of Nigeria worry about our representatives and the principles and objectives that drive them? I heard someone, and I'm latching to that because it makes a whole lot of sense to me and to some Nigerians, that the political parties that some of you belong to have become special people's vehicles. It has nothing to do with the Nigerian people. It has nothing to do with the development of Nigeria. It has nothing to do with the general well-being of all of us. It's just about you.
Fine. I can address that in a second.
Okay.
Assuming you're from Benue State. Just make that assumption. Okay? Your people are being killed in hundreds. Villages are being destroyed and people are put in IDP camps. Do you think that when they talk about a campaign, that people there will want to know whether a borehole is built or a road is built? But these people are talking about survival.
Can't you fight it inside?
That is what I'm saying.
Inside a particular party?
Just a minute. They're talking survival. And they're talking survival in a party that refuses to accept that they're being killed. That refuses to accept that a genocide is happening. So, assuming you're from there, or you're from Zamfara, or you're from, Plateau and all that, what are you going to stay in a party that even does not acknowledge that you are going through a horrendous situation? And what you look at is the same people for which you are part of, for which is supposed to provide for you, basically, welfare, security, and all that. Today, they tell you it is this reason. Tomorrow, they tell you it's another reason. Nobody's brought to book. Nobody is being charged. Those who try self-help within that zone to protect themselves from these marauders are rather being arrested and charged to court and sentenced to death. If you're part of that, Are you going to say, let me stay in here so that they won't say I'm using a special purpose vehicle? No.
Can they fight from within the party? Can they change from inside?
They cannot.
Must people jump from one party
And
to
I
the
will
other?
tell you why they cannot. They cannot. The same party just did a convention. How did it happen? Somebody was picked and said he was going to be chairman. Everybody was made to step down. And some people went down there that day and were dancing and clapping after they had muzzled everybody down. So, if you now ask a man, change from within, who will he complain to? To the man who is dancing and clapping on a Saturday that 200 people were being killed in Biningwari in Kaduna? How will that happen? So if you're from Kaduna and you're from around that Biningwari and your people are being, and then you're in the party, and then you're looking at your leaders, not even bothering about the massacre going on, and they're dancing and clapping and saying they're electing somebody. That is not a party. A party should have compassion. A party should be empathetic to their people. A party should say, there's something wrong here. A party will even acknowledge within that arena. Let us rise. Let us say 1 minute prayer for our people, and the head of the party and the leader ought to come out and now say clearly, this will not happen under my watch, or cannot continue to happen. And everybody just keeps quiet, and there's this whole attitude of those people who are complaining are just disgruntled people. That's what I'm saying.
It looks like those of you in the PDP see this like a payback time. Oh, yes, we are serving them the same dose they served us 4 years ago.
Actually.
Is that the kind of feeling you get?
No, that's not it. Those of us in the PDP, what we see is that every lie has an expiry date. And the expiry date for all the lies told to Nigerians has come. A facade was built. A big bunch of balloon was set in front of Nigerians, and they didn't see the back of it. And Nigerians bought into it, and you can't blame them. You understand? The few people who tried to point out that this was nothing but mere propaganda, they were given short shrift by Nigerians. And now Nigerians have realized it. So we're not bothered, we're not really celebrating. All that we're actually happy about is that we're saying that it is now time for well-meaning Nigerians, PDP people inclusive and all that people, to take back their country. Because this country, if you leave it in the same trajectory it is today, will not have a country left. You know, today, I sit back as an individual and I reflect on all those icons, so-called icons of democracy, who were willing to come out when Jonathan raised fuel price in order to eliminate fuel subsidy to 120 naira. And everybody poured on the street, and all those icons were there in Lagos, shouting and screaming and saying Jonathan. And of course, Jonathan said, well, let me buckle to public opinion. When it was sent to 145, where were they? And today, people are being killed everywhere. More people are being killed in Nigeria than in Afghanistan. That is under a war. And we are not supposed to be under a war. And yet, All those icons that have things to say when it was Jonathan, they've lost their voice. But I know why. You want to know why? There are two sets of people in this world. Those who accept responsibility, who when they make a mistake come out and say, we're sorry we made a mistake, we make a U-turn. But there's another set that will not want another person to say that their decisions were wrong. And so they will rather hang on to where they are and keep their mouth shut than come out boldly and say, we made a mistake. PDP came out and said, yes, we made a mistake. We were a party full of impunity and all that, and we saw the consequences of it. And so we're sorry, Nigerians. We have rebranded, we have come out. And the same party turned around and said, oh, don't mind them, you do this and you do that. Of course, what they have is a record that they play. Every time they go back to that record. You know, they called the previous president all manners of names. For every infraction by an official of that government, it was put on the head of Jonathan. We are living witnesses. But today, for every infraction of anybody in this government, nobody wants to put it on the head of the president. Everybody runs away. Everybody tries to find a very, say, oh, it is this person, oh, it is that person, oh. And of course, the nebulous term, when things fail, corruption fighting back. Nigeria no longer listening.
Anyway, we take a short break and maybe get the views of other people on this constant movement from one party to the other. When we return, we'll talk more about PDP.
From my own understanding and from the look of things, the reason is not far-fetched. It's just, to me, it's just a personal, a selfish interest. They want to have a sense of belonging. They want to belong to where their selfish, their interests will be their priority, and then they will have a way to the top. I think that is just all I.
The reason behind all this political defection in the country is simply for personal interest. One thing I believe, as a country, unfortunately for us as a nation, we don't have leaders who always put the interest of the nation first before their own personal interest, basically. So none of them, among those that defected from APC to PDP, defected because they were actually not satisfied with how the government is being run by the president, but rather it's because they feel dissatisfied or some of their grievances were not met by the president. So basically it's about personal interest, it's not for national interest.
Everybody we know, we all know, Nigerians know already, it's out of their own selfish interest. It's not for the benefit of the country. They are not doing anything to help the country. They are fighting for their own shares and how to loot money again. If one place is not working for them, as usual, they come to another place in order to make their own money. They are not doing anything for the country, for the benefit of this country. We know that already. You know, people from PDP are campaigning to APC, you know, into PDP. Why? Because they know that things are not moving well, I suppose, there. They want where they can loot money and for their own selfish interests. Even a blind man should know that they are just common looters all around. So there's nothing else we can talk about. Just let them keep doing what they want to do. We're already tired of them. So let them just be.
Selfish interest. Politicians are decamping because they feel they will have to move to a place where their personal interests will be carried along. It has nothing to do with the interest of the masses. It has nothing to do with the interest of the nation. It's purely personal. Just like the APC government have said, those politicians that are decamping are people that, and if you look at them individually, if you want to assess them individually, you see that they are individuals that have lost out the grip of their position in their various states. And at the end of the day, for 2019, a lot of them are people that are very, very sure and certain that they will not have a ticket under their present party. So they want to move to a place where they can bargain, where they can be assured of the ticket to come back to the National Assembly.
They are not competent enough on themselves, because I just look that all these people that they call our leaders, our politicians, let me use activists as a word, they are there for themselves in their self-interest. Because when you look, when one party did not favor them, they will run to the other one. Look at the other time, there's AD. From AD, they form APC. After then, we see them, they scatter again, they call new PDP. Later, they come to APC. So when the thing doesn't favor them, they will leave and go where it favors them. They are the lawmaker, they are the lawgiver, they are the decision maker in the party. What of other people that are in the party? The other day I was here, they say Oshomole was a party chairman. Other people are there from labor union president, union whatever, from union they give a governor, he keep quiet. We suffer for almost 1 month for strike, 2003. Now he come back to governor now. From that governor now they give a party chairman. Why other people are there? Why?
You're still watching The Signature Show, and my guest is still Senator Inyinaya Abaribe, Chairman, Senate Committee on Power. We're concluding. A number of people say that the movement to PDP is first stage, that we're going to see scene 2, that the war will break out in the PDP, when people start, running for offices and contesting for offices. That's one. Number 2, you said the APC foisted a chairman on the party. A lot of people in your party claim that a few governors foisted secondus on the PDP.
Not true. That I can tell you. You don't need to pay me for that. I can tell you it's not true. We did a convention. We did voting. We got proper consultations and everything. But that is not really the point.
The question of, but there's still a lot of,
just
a minute, within the party.
It's not true. There's no such
Some
anger.
left the party.
The people who left the party still came back to be part of the CUPP. Why? That means that maybe the reasons for which they left, they've also seen. And like I said, I don't see this as defection. So this is a homecoming.
So how about
Dibos have just a minute. Dibos have a saying. Now, one Lord Diabo, your marankekema. When a woman marries 2 different husbands, she will know which one is much better for her. So, when everybody has a freedom of association, and when an association seems not to be going in in the way you can say no. And there's one thing, that those who continue to complain about people moving, they have not asked the proper questions, and they have not even interrogated those that they are looking at. And I'm talking about those in APC. How many parties have they been in? Buhari was where? APP, AMPP, CPC, then APC. So, he has also moved. And so nobody can come from the presidency and talk about people moving. And that's why I suspect that the presidency said everybody has a right to movement.
So are we expecting?
That's what I'm saying.
Are we expecting?
I can give you all the other people who have moved. The chairman, just a minute, the chairman of Shomole. Well, yeah, was he? Wasn't ACN? He was actually in Labour, moved from Labour to ACN. From ACN, did what? Okay, so his movements everywhere. So let nobody be holier than thou in terms of movement.
What are we expecting? Because PDP is notorious, forgive me, for infighting, and then they cloud it and they say it's a family affair.
I have told you this. Let me reiterate it.
Okay.
PDP came out and said, we have learnt from our mistakes. It was at the Nikon Hilton. Everybody came. Nigerians saw it. The chairman said, we have learned from our mistakes. Now, every party has a template. I know that PDP has a template for people who come in. I was in PDP. I went to AMPP to run for governor. I came back when I saw that there was absolutely nothing in there after the elections. Then, my governor then, Theodore G, was in PPA. And in 2010, came back to PDP. We already had structures on the ground. We already had everything set up. But on coming back, there was a template which was handed over to us by the party. And as loyal party members, you follow the template. So there will be no problem in any state where anybody comes. There's a template that is going to be used, and it's a very fair template. You understand? And so for those who think that coming back by all these people who have gone away, that is going to lead to an implosion, that's going to lead to infighting and all that, they are not going to see that. And finally, what people and why people are moving and trying to form these coalitions is that they have seen that there is a bigger danger of not having any Nigeria at all to vie for if you continue on this trajectory that we're going. How would you? You have a trajectory that is leading to a dismemberment of the country if we're not careful. And so, when eminent people, eminent statesmen like Danjuma, Babangida, Basanjo, all this, you understand, the Middle Belt elders, the Yoruba leaders of thought, the Niger Delta elders and Pandev, the Ohanes and the Buhari. Oh, when everybody is coming around and saying, hey, there is something wrong, and we need to address this. The political side of it, you understand, is what you're seeing. Where people are now coming together and say, hey, let's not fight each other. Let's confront what would lead to a demise of the country if we're not careful.
Distinguished Senator, I must thank you for your time.
My pleasure.
I've been speaking with Senator Enyinnaya Abaribe, Chairman Senate Committee on Power, and also Chairman Southeast Senate Caucus. I am VinMartin Obiora Ilo. Thanks for watching, and let's do this again same time next week.